You ever wonder why it feels like life-saving discoveries take forever to actually reach us? I mean, what if the problem isn't the science itself, but the entire system it's stuck in? Well, today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical idea that wants to reboot that whole system from the ground up. It's called Decentralized Science, or DeSci for short. And believe me, it could change, well, pretty much everything. Yeah, this quote, it really gets to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? See, modern science is just bogged down by what researchers are calling unbearable bottlenecks. And what are those? Well, we're talking about super rigid bureaucracies, university tech offices that move at a snail's pace, and funding models that, honestly, they can kill a brilliant idea before it even has a chance to breathe. The whole system is just struggling under its own weight. So that really brings us to the big question, right? The whole point of this explainer. What if we could just redesign the whole thing from the ground up? Build a better system, something faster, way more transparent, and truly collaborative. That's the massive, ambitious goal that DeSci is aiming for. Okay, so to really get why DeSci is such a big deal, we've got to look at what's broken. Let's break down the biggest failures in the way science works today. The very problems DeSci wants to solve. All right, here are the big four problems. First, funding. It's slow, it's often biased, and it's terrified of taking risks. Second, publishing. The big journals charge a fortune, and get this, the expert peer reviewers, the people doing the actual quality control, they usually don't get paid a dime. Then there's data. It's locked away in these private silos so other scientists can't even check the results or build on them. And finally, IP. So many good ideas, especially for things like rare diseases, just get shelved, basically abandoned because they're not seen as a big enough cash cow. And right into this mess, a new movement steps up. It's using some pretty cool tech to tackle these problems head on. So let's talk about what decentralized science, or DeSci, actually is. Okay, at its heart, DeSci is all about using Web3 tools, things like the blockchain, which is basically just a super secure, transparent public record book, and smart contracts, which are like automated agreements that run themselves. The idea is to use this tech to build a whole new foundation for science. The whole point, to get rid of the old centralized gatekeepers and replace them with something open, transparent, and driven by the community. Now, one of the key building blocks here is something called a DAO. That stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. It sounds complicated, but the best way to think about it is really simple. Imagine a group chat, but it has a shared bank account. Seriously, everyone in the group gets to vote on how the money is spent, and every single decision, every transaction, is totally transparent on the blockchain. So for science, this is huge. It means communities of researchers, patients, and funders can run things themselves. No central boss needed. All right, so we've got the tools, DAOs, blockchain. How does DeSci actually use them to fix those huge problems with funding and IP? Let's take a look. And check this out. The difference is night and day. You've got the old way on one side, slow, painful grant applications, decisions made behind closed doors by groups that hate risk. And on the other side, you have DeSci. We're talking fast crowdfunding through DAOs, communities that are actually excited to back those high-risk, high-reward projects. And maybe the biggest thing, DeSci tries to solve the valley of death. That's that dreaded gap where so much good research just dies because it can't get that next round of funding. DeSci wants to create actual markets for it. And how does it do that? With something called an IP-NFT. Just think of it like a digital title deed for a scientific discovery. This digital token represents the actual ownership of the IP. It can be bought, sold, traded. That's what creates the market. And what's really cool is that it can be split up into tiny pieces, so it can be co-owned by everyone who helped fund it. The scientists, the patients, the investors. Suddenly you have a direct line between funding a project and literally owning a piece of it if it succeeds. So why is this such a game changer? Well, look at this number. Over 10,000. That's how many rare diseases we know about. And so many of them are just ignored by traditional pharma companies. Why? Because the number of patients is too small to make a blockbuster, profitable drug. It's a massive market failure that leaves millions of people behind. And this is where something called a bio-DAO comes in. It's a special kind of DAO that puts the power right back into the hands of patient communities. They get to decide what research gets funded for their own conditions. They can even use those smart contracts to build in anti-shelving rules, making it impossible for a company to just walk away from a promising treatment. And the best part? If a drug actually works and makes money, that revenue flows right back to the community to fund the next round of research. It becomes this incredible self-sustaining engine for discovery.
Okay, so DeSci isn't just about the money. It's also about rebuilding trust in the science itself. And that starts with tackling the totally broken system of peer review. Let's see how it does that.
The key thing to understand here is that it's all about changing the incentives. Right now, peer review is slow, it's secretive, and the experts doing the work are basically unpaid judges. The DeSci model just completely flips the script. Everything is transparent, with reviews recorded publicly on the blockchain. And it's incentivized. Reviewers actually earn tokens and build a public reputation for giving good constructive feedback. It turns them from judges into collaborative advisors. So one cool idea for how this could work is called proof of review. It's pretty straightforward. Step 1, a reviewer has to stake their own tokens. They're basically putting their money where their mouth is, betting on the research. They've got skin in the game. Step 2, their review is public for everyone to see. Step 3, they get rewarded for their work. And they can even earn more if that paper goes on to be a big deal and gets cited a lot. See how that lines everything up? It pushes everyone toward better, more reliable science. Okay, so this all sounds incredible, I know. But let's get real for a second. Trying to build a completely new operating system for science is, well, it's not going to be easy. There are some major hurdles on the road ahead. And yeah, the challenges are pretty substantial. You've got huge regulatory questions. How do you deal with patient privacy laws like HIPAA or all the new crypto rules popping up? Then there's the legal stuff. The actual legal status of a DAO or a token is still a giant gray area in most places. Plus, you've got to deal with all the compliance headaches, like anti-money laundering rules. And remember that institutional friction we started with? Oh yeah, that's still a huge problem. Getting traditional universities to play ball with these new ideas is a massive uphill battle. But look, even with all those hurdles, the momentum behind DeSci is real and it's growing. What we're watching is a fundamental rethinking of, well, everything. Who gets to be part of science, who gets to fund it, and ultimately, who benefits when a breakthrough happens. And that leaves us with a really powerful final thought. For centuries, right, the big discoveries have come from giant universities or massive corporate labs. But what if the future is different? What if the next cure for cancer or the solution to our energy crisis doesn't come from a corporation, but from a global, decentralized community of passionate people all working together out in the open? That's the future that DeSci is asking us to imagine.